Hello everyone and welcome to this special edition of Primetime League. World starts in just under 24 hours and we have a packed episode going over marquee matches, checking out the group stages, and Freak's gonna break down the patch preview for Worlds and a little bit of League of Learning. Sacre bleu! Primetime League starts right now!
Death, what the hell? Gets a triple kill, gets a quadra, gets the pentakill! What on earth is going on?
This is the year of SKT. And the faithful shall be rewarded. They're going to take a trip to Worlds.
Hello everyone and welcome to a special Worlds edition of Primetime League. We're coming to you direct from Paris, France, where the 2015 League of Legends World Championship starts in less than 24 hours. Now I'm joined here on the historic River Seine by three compatriots as we prepare you for Worlds. And since Europe is the setting for the World Championship, it only seems fair that two of our EU LCS brothers in arms are here with us. First, former pro player turned caster, best thing in the world, Mitch Crepo Force Pools. Next, his colleague Trevor Quickshot Henry from the European LCS. And finally, from the North American LCS is David Freak Turley. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me here today. Gorgeous, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty chilly on the river,
A little chilly.
That view's epic.
I'm gonna say that'll do it for me right there, but we have an awesome show, so let's deliver it. We're here to kick off the group stage of Worlds, so let's jump right into things and talk about the matchups. We'll kick things off with Group A, which people have been calling the group of life for some. And this group consists of Chronologic Gaming, Flash Wolves, Coup Tigers, and Pain Gaming. And it could be a real battle for the two teams that will advance. Crepo, since we're almost in Belgium,
yeah.
why not start with you, buddy?
I mean, we're only 3 weeks off Belgium, but yeah, if you have faith, this is a group you really want to watch. CLG have a good chance of making it out top 2, if not first place. So everyone's looking at CLG, everyone's looking at Coup Tigers as well, but Flash Wolves, they could bring the upset.
They really can, and I think there's a lot of things to prove for all 4 teams in this group. Chronologic Gaming back on the international stage after multiple years being away. Coup Tigers choked so terribly in IEM earlier in the year, and they didn't perform necessarily the strongest in their own region. Pain, they're finally at Worlds. They've been wanting to be there for so long. Yeah. And of course the Flash Wolves, they were just overtaken by AHQ at the end of summer. So I think all 4 of these teams want to show up on the international stage. And truthfully, I think 3 of them have a pretty good shot of making top 2.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I actually wanted to bring up, especially as you're talking about group of life here, that this is probably the best chance for a bottom seed team, like a pool 3 team, to actually make it out of the group stage here. Pain has about the easiest group of teams they could possibly hope for here, so this is like their chance to show that wildcard teams can really compete well on the world stage. Outside of like individual upsets like Ubim and whatnot, I think this is actually a real chance for them.
There is a real chance, but it's still a very distinct difference
like
between Pain and
1 in 20, you know.
Yeah,
something.
1 in 20. And most of that will rely on Kami. Kami's their mid laner, is really, really big in the Brazilian scene, really popular as well. He'll have to roam. So we don't think Kami's going to take it just from winning his lane, but he does put pressure on other lanes. And maybe, you know, some of these World teams are not used to roaming mid laners as much, and he could make the difference. But it's unlikely. It's
going to help at least that the 2 favorites in the group, Coup Tigers and CLG, have mid laners that are relatively passive in lane. Everybody who does remember Kaboom, we are in Europe, does remember it. It was the charm from the mid lane that caught Frog and that started the snowball that then allowed them to win. So I think there is a shot for Pain in that regard, but it'll have to be a big individual performance. Yeah. And I do think if you look at the 2 teams that are the favorite, that a lot of people are talking about, CLG and Coup, there's so much debate about who's above whom. But I feel there's quite a stylistic mismatch between the 2 teams. You know, CLG are very, very focused around their top laner, very, very focused around getting Zion to carry.
Right. And especially early game focus as well is the thing. Like, these guys are the early game team of North America, and Coup are the late game team of Korea. At least of the teams going here, they have actually very bad early games, and they come back to it later on. So that to me gives like a slight edge to CLG that I think they can actually close out the game from there if they get the early game leads that they're supposed to. But of course, you know, at Worlds, anything can really happen, of course.
And I also think the early game pressure that Flash Wolves could be bringing to the table could also upset the likes of either CLG or Coup. You know, in a lot of the prep that we were doing, we were looking at how Flash Wolves and the whole LMS region tends to focus a lot of their Gangster on Dragon, Gangster on bottom lane, things like that. If they get ahead early, that could be the way that Flash Wolves gets an advantage and then presses through for a Nexus kill.
Well, you're mentioning passive mid laners here from the other 2 teams here. I mean, Karsa and Maple are probably the 2 best players in their role of the LMS. These guys are incredibly good here. So those are the guys that I would expect to lead the upset if it happens here from Flash Wolves. All All right, guys, going to see if there's any future world champions coming out of Group A, but it's time to turn to Twitter and talk about the past world champions. We've got 5 of them in attendance here at this year's Worlds. Up first, Season 1 world champion X-Peke. Used to play for Fnatic back then, now he's on Origin. Next up, Season 3 world champions SK Telecom T1 have Faker and Bengi returning on the same team. And finally, last year's world champion Samsung White, their mid laner Pawn is now on Edward Gaming. Their AD carry Imp now over on LGD. Very strong players, very strong teams. And our question is, which of these 5 players will have the highest KDA at the end of the first week of group stage? That goes from today throughout Sunday. I'm going to say that's Imp for my vote. And to get into the PTL Hall of Fame, tell us exactly what that player's KDA will be. I'm going to choose 25.0 KDA for Imp. Guys, if you want to be right like I am, send your answers to @LevelEsports with the hashtag PTL and let us know who's going to be.
25 KDA. It's pretty high there, Freak. So while you're tweeting in your own answers, let's move on to Group B now, where you have life, there must also be death. And people have been referring to Group B as the group of death. That's because it's a group packed with the talented teams, and not all of them will make it through. This group consists of AHQ Esports Club, Cloud9, Fnatic, and Invictus Gaming. Freak, what do you think it takes to win this group?
I think it takes a very consistent run through. All of these teams are on some level very real threats. The fact that Cloud9, who's won North America so many times, is actually the bottom seed here tells you it's a pretty damn strong group, right? You've got number 1 from LMS, number 1 from Europe, IG definitely no slouches as well. I mean, it is a scary group. The skill set here is strong, so it's being consistent, it's taking every game intelligently, don't underestimate your opponents, and the thing is, I don't think we're going to see a 6-0 team coming out of the group, so it's that consistency that does matter.
I definitely agree with Freak here. If you look at the teams, yes, Cloud9 is a favorite for almost 4th position, but any team that gets behind Cloud9 early can still count on the fact that High will be shot calling supremely well, and that means you can still lose that game, even if you are on paper the better team, so people will have to watch out for Cloud9. But looking at the top of the table, ING and Fnatic should still be head and shoulders above AHQ and Cloud9 overall.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because Fnatic, the last time we saw them in an international tournament, they looked great against SKT in a best of 5. In a series, they pushed them all the way. But in the group stages, Fnatic completely floundered. Now, admittedly, that was without Reckless. That was a different mindset. It was different strategies, different meta. So I want to see how Fnatic handles themselves in the group stages, and I also want to see how well AHQ can continue to perform. They've had a phenomenal run throughout their own region. They've come in from the LMS looking head and shoulders above everybody else there, and LMS as a region is consistently underestimated or undervalued by international competition. I still feel Fnatic and IG should be just a little better than them, but they are a definite threat that cannot be underestimated.
I'm going to keep my eyes though on Kakao and Rookie, especially that duo seems to be one of the highest talent mid lane jungler duos we have across Worlds even, and Kakao in particular. His team actually sets him up for glory. Like, he gets the most hard leashes out of any other jungler in the tournament. He gets help level 1, and then he snowballs, then he takes on the enemy jungler, and then he starts ganking the lanes. So if we see Kakao on form, he may very well be the best jungler in this tournament. Killov is probably the only one that could match him for that title, and that's debatable as already. So Kakao is definitely the person for me to watch in this group.
It's interesting because Worlds in general, I feel like, has a weaker pool of junglers compared to previous seasons. Like, it's kind of the overall sentiment here. So having those few standouts is actually more important here than before, where you just kind of squash a bunch of other people who are not as good as you. They're mere mortals. So yeah, watching those guys run around is going to be important. I actually care about the mid lane matchups here as well. Westdoor, I guess, is debatably very strong. There's contention whether he's very good or not.
Guy's always a world, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy shows up, which I think is important to me, but you got Febiven in his rookie season actually going quite well up against Rookie, which is great. That just makes it very fun overall. And even Incarnation, his rookie season, by the end he started getting really good. This is, I think, very close mid lane talent-wise, and it's going to make for some very interesting matchups.
I can only add to this, and I think the top lane is going to be similar story, and if not even closer. You've got Balls with all the criticism in his play. You've got Ziv, arguably the best player out of LMS, and then Huni as well as Zitai, all doing battle head-to-head on a patch in a meta that favors top laners, where you can win games if your top laner is good enough. So I'm going to be very excited to see how they handle themselves, but more from the angle of how does Balls step up against the likes of Ziv, Zitai, and Huni, because I think that is a very big mountain to climb.
Definitely going to be an interesting group from what you guys say to watch the junglers and their cooperation with mid and the top lane.
Bienvenue au Tour d'Eiffel. Welcome to the League of Learning for 518. Now, guys, we're going to talk about what's changed compared to the previous competitive patches. We're going to start with the big three top laners. Fiora is weaker base stat-wise. You might have seen her in the Chinese regionals. Now she won't just outstat you, so lane bullies like Riven and Renekton should be able to handle her pretty well, but she still does all the tricky Fiora things. Her damage is still very high. Move on to the next top laner, Darius, also nerfed for the laning phase, the biggest change being the mana cost to his Q. He will actually run out of mana, so if you can sustain from him or dodge enough Qs, he will and you can try to beat him that way, but he's a big lane bully. We'll see him some at Worlds, but I would say probably not too terribly much. Also sustain down a little bit in lane, up a little bit potentially in team fights. So overall change there. Now, next up is Gangplank, top laner, or maybe a mid laner as well. But since you saw him in competitive, he's lost a lot of barrel damage and a lot of barrel armor pen. Also, one of the bigger changes since you last saw him in competitive, though this was already on live for you guys, is tossing out a third barrel really quickly has a longer cooldown because you can't just chain them out quite as quickly. So that's another important change to think about for him. Next up, Lee Sin in the jungle. Recent set of buffs for him. Not only did he get 5 attack damage on Warrior, but also his ulti will do a lot more damage if he kicks a tank into other people. Also, his energy return is a bit better for him. There's a lot of Lee Sin mains in here. I think we expect to see Lee Sin very commonly picked, especially to snowball top lane. That's our big prediction for him in this tournament. Next up into the mid lane is Azir. He lost some movement speed. That's a really big one. Now you actually have to be a pretty good Azir to get away from ganks and to get away from team fights. Also, he lost the multi-hit damage on his Q. So much more of it is his auto attack uptime in team fights. He's more of a DPS mage, much less bursty, and again, easier to catch. So down a few pegs, still likely to be a viable champion. Now let's move on to the bottom lane. Mordekaiser's the new big thing. Now we haven't seen him at all in competitive play, so he's a big question mark here. But compared to what you guys are seeing in solo queue back in 5.16 and 5.17, a lot lower sustain early on. He can actually be harassed out of lane most likely. And the real big question is how players are going to play him. Even among the pro AD carries playing him in solo queue, some max W, some max Q. What items do they build? Those are all big questions. And seeing how the teams play around Mordekaiser in the bot lane is going to be a big question for us here at Worlds. And either way, it's going to be very fun.
All right, now that your brain is filled with pick possibilities and patch notes that's going to fly into Worlds, it's time to talk about Group C. This group consists of SK Telecom T1, Edward Gaming, H2K, and the Bangkok Titans, also known as the Group of Deft. Trevor, I'm going to leave this one off with you. What is it? What do these teams need to do to get themselves out of group?
Well, you've kind of pointed out already. There's two very clear favorites in this group, SKT and Edward Gaming. I'm very excited about seeing this matchup again, considering it was the finals of the mid-season invitational a few months ago, in which a Chinese team won an international tournament for the first time, knocking off a Korean squad. So I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm still completely undecided as to who I feel will top the group, though, because I do think there's a lot of strengths in both squads. I think Edward Gaming may be hungrier for a win, maybe to prove themselves, but then for SKT, it's redemption. You know, they have to get revenge for losing last time. I think for H2K and Bangkok Titans, though, it is such a difficult task because I feel they are outclassed and mismatched in almost every single way against the other two teams.
Yeah, it's going to be rough, honestly. Like, you've got BKT, you know, congrats to them. It's the first ever time we see a Thai team making it to Worlds. That's cool, but it's still their first season, and the GPL is not exactly a strong region, so it's not a lot of players, unfortunately. Meanwhile, H2K, they're the number 3 team in Europe, but they got the number 2 seed, so they weren't put into Pool 3. I mean, yeah, they're pretty good, and Europe's a pretty strong region, but like, it's just, you have like the literal best team in Korea and arguably the best team in China. Like, good luck being as good as those teams. Yeah. And it's very, very top heavy. They're incredibly strong teams. The player talent pool there. Yeah. You have 4 or 3 world champions playing on the top 2 teams in that group. Like, just good luck.
Yeah, for H2K and Bangkok Titans, it'll really come down to not even looking at top 2, but just taking games off these Titans. And then EG SKT this could be a preview of a potential world final already. Because these guys won't meet anymore, I believe, until the final itself. So it doesn't really matter who gets out of that group first. They both could make a run through the entire tournament, sweep it, and meet again in the final. So we'll see if they come in with full strength. Maybe, you know, temper expectations, because EDG may want to hide some strategies as well. Nobody really knows.
There is an important point, though, because you talk about, you know, taking first versus second. If you get second place in this group, you face a random number 1 team from the other groups.
That's true.
And that's a 1 in 3 chance of being LGD. Edward Gaming lost to LG. Like, they don't want to play LGD. That's a terrible idea. So it's weird because there is a very big reason to get first place here because you might exit in the quarterfinals with the wrong quarterfinal draw. So as much as people like to say Chinese teams love to sandbag, the games that don't matter and bring the dank memes out, actually first place
pretty
can
important.
mean a lot. I mean, or second place means you face CLG, and then it's free anyway.
Well, I also want to talk about the mid lane matchups in this particular group.
Trial by fire.
3 Korean squads. You've also got Ryu playing for a European team up against Faker. I mean, the quintessential gif of ZVZ. And I mean, he's come out and he said, look, I'm going to first pick Zed. I don't expect that to happen, right? But I'm very excited to see how that plays out. Then you've got Pawn in the mix as well. G4 from the Bangkok Titans is going to have a very good proving ground to see where he ranks, because at the international wildcard, G4 absolutely stomped the rest of his competition.
Yep.
So now we get to see a good barometer as to where he's going to measure versus these 3 Korean gods, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and then looking at Rio and to an extent HTK, they embraced their fate though. Once the live reactions came out to the group tile, they all went on Twitter, it's like, yeah guys, that's it, nice vacation in Paris. So they do seem to be okay with knowing that they're likely not going to make it out of groups, but we may see some spectacular strategies, some cheese come out. You never know.
There's one thing to point out though, is that it's double best of 1. So if you can win 1 game against either of those teams, and that ends up being the second place group, you force a tiebreaker already.
And then you get smashed.
I mean, maybe, right? But like, what we saw that happen Edward Gaming versus AHQ last year, whereas actually, Green Tea played out of his mind, landed a million hooks, and it was like, okay, now this is close. Like, now you've got a real chance, and like, if you pick that 1 game off the right team, that upset can happen, and that's what they got to pray for, that 1 game, and then hope that you get the tiebreaker win.
It's going to be awesome. There's no doubt that Group C is a huge powerhouse. All right, guys, so with all of the talent assembled in one place, we wanted to see what your favorite matchup or kind of marquee matchup would be coming into Worlds. Now, you can obviously go on and talk forever, so we're adding in the death timers. We're going to have 45 seconds to talk about the matchup that you think will be the marquee matchup coming into Worlds. I believe, Freak, we will start with you.
Yeah, well, we're here in Paris. They're known for baking very good things, so they should bake us some apple pie. I want to know how North America's premier bot lane of Rush Hour is going to do up against the Coup Tigers with Prey and Gorilla. Prey and Gorilla are very well-respected players. They're among the very best in Korea. Gorilla's kind of, I would say, most known for bringing Janna to the world stage and making everyone realize this is a good champion, so he's an innovator as well. And so seeing how Doublelift and Afro can do against 2 of the most experienced Koreans in the world stage, and they're known for winning lane in North America, they're known for being the best bot lane in North America, they're known for winning games by themselves. CLG, though they're still a fairly branched out team, still does center a lot around Doublelift, so seeing how those 2 are going to do, and basically just to prove that North America has a talent pool, that North America has good players, because I really do believe in NA this year. I said a few months ago we're going to see 2.
Oh, you're done.
Okay.
That was great. Fantastic. Quick shot. You now have the pavement, cobblestone, what have you. Take it.
Okay, let's go. I'm going to look at Group D. I think my marquee matchup has to be the AD carries of Imp and Niels. Both of these guys are outspoken. They are confident. They have bravado for days, and they do not crack under pressure. These are guys who can single-handedly carry games. They can turn an entire team fight, they can turn an entire match, they can turn the group stage in favor of their particular squads. I also do not think Niels has a penchant for wanting to cry. This is something that Imp has a history of making his opponents do. So I want to see whether or not the European talent, the European rookie of the split, the guy that came up and made Origin an absolute threat, will be able to stand up, go toe-to-toe with the likes of Imp, with the likes of LGD, and I really want to see how Niels is going to be able to carry himself.
All right, tissues or not, you feel like that's going to be a fantastic game. Preppa, we're moving on to you. What do you feel is going to be the marquee matchup here?
As a long-term Western fanboy and player, I'm just looking at 2 Western mid laners here, Expeke against Bjergsen. I think Origin as a team, in every position except mid, have more talent or have the better player compared to TSM currently, but I think the mismatch there is in the mid lane, and TSM's strongest player is Bjergsen, Origin's weakest player is Expeke, and I think that's where it can go wrong for them, because the amount of resources TSM consistently funnels into Bjergsen, including jungle camps, tower gold, even farm share post 15 to 30 minutes, is significantly more than what Expeke gets from Origin. He usually has to clean up, he plays the utility role, doesn't really get to have any ganks, so if TSM gets their synergy together, gets Santorin ganking from Bjergsen, that matchup can win, spill over, and win over the entire map for TSM.
Wow, you had 3 seconds to spare. I'm going to give you that. You want to say anything to your fans?
Triple win.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for that. While I have my own opinion and critiques on your performances, they went well. We want to know what you think and who won. Send a tweet to @LOL Esports along with the hashtag Crepo1 if you think he made the best case, or you can go with Quickshot1 if you think Quickshot said it the best, or of course, Freak1 if you want to go in that punny direction. So now we have a special treat for you as French casters, Chips and Noir give us a taste of Paris.
Hi everybody, welcome to the 2015 World Championships in Paris.
The city is pretty well known for art, monuments, and of course the food.
And here at Au Pied de Cochon, it's really good. Let's take a look inside. So we're in France, and in France, as a starter, we take escargot. Escargot in English is like snails. Let's have a taste. Cheers. That's really, really good. So we are done with the starters and we are going to have the main course, which is andouillette. Andouillette is a sausage made from chitterlings, and actually that's one of the things I like the most in French cuisine. That's really, really, really good.
And generally, you eat the andouillette with some French fries. You can eat with some vegetables, but fries are French.
So in France, we have a sentence that says everything is good in the pig. In French, tout est bon dans le cochon. We are going to have the rest of the pig now.
Avec sa sauce béarnaise. Bon appétit, bonne dégustation. Merci.
This is the foot of the pig, this is the nose, this is the ear and the tail.
So the thing with the foot and the tail is that you got a lot of bones, so you have to do it with your hands.
So after a good meal, of course, you have to have a good dessert, and it's
Crêpes flambées au Grand Marnier.
so nice.
Merci beaucoup. Bon appétit.
So guys, it was a pleasure to have you for this excellent meal. I hope you will have a memorable and excellent World Championships 2015. And bon appétit et au revoir.
Au revoir.
All right, so we've talked about the group of life, the group of death, and the group of deft. Now it's time for Group D, which might as well be Group Black and Blue after the fighting it's going to require to advance from this group. The group members are KT Rolster, LGD Gaming, Team Solo Mid, and Origin. Freak, I'm going to start with you. What's it going to take to come out of this group?
It's going to be interesting because I think it's going to take defeating the number 2 team in Korea. Like, KT Rolster are pretty good. It's interesting because judging the LCK as a region after they lost like 15 of their top 20 players is a little bit hard. People still think Korea is very, very strong, and certainly KT Rolster is a good team. But I think this is actually a real chance for Origins, a real chance for LGD, and TSM has to play very far up to catch up to this level.
I just think it's scary the fact that TSM is almost favored for 4th place.
Yeah, I think so.
Coming into this season, nobody would have expected TSM going to Worlds because they made these big statements like, only thing that matters for us is Worlds. You know, we're just going to go through the season again. We're looking to improve. We're looking to expand infrastructure. But it all came like falling down at the end. They had a one-dimensional style. Everything revolved around Bjergsen. And they tried going into different areas, but they just really didn't succeed. And right now, they just have to fight their way even up to third place, possibly.
It's a difficult setup. And of course, the game has moved away from that sort of solo mid-carry style over the last year. We're seeing a lot more prevalence of obviously the jungle top coming into play, the jungle supports. I know we've been discussing quite extensively how the jungle and supports can impact the game. And when you look at the likes of TSM, they just don't have the same ingredients that a lot of these other players have. You contrast the likes of Centauran and Lustboy versus Amazing and Mythy, for example, versus TBQ and PYL. I mean, Imp has said quite openly that he went to LGD because of PYL and his ability to lead and shot calling games. So it's going to be a difficult task, but I'm also very excited to see how these other three very strong jungle supports duos can impact the map and roam and get to the other lanes.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Peekaboo here on KT Rolster. Like, he's the reason that KT Rolster is even good right now. They're like a 5th place team that wasn't going to go to Worlds, and he shows up. His roaming's really good. He's making so many plays around the map. Now, that does mean that Aero might be left alone a little bit, and if a team has a very aggressive duo lane, like LGD, they can abuse that, and Imp's going to have a field day, I think, winning a 2v1 lane. But you know, that's the thing, is you have very different styles here. TSM are very, very, very slow. They're the only team at Worlds to have a gold deficit on average in their region. Like, they have horrible early games, and yet top lane is full of lane bullies and snowball-y, like, hyper carries. And so either Centauran learns how to gank for once, at least a lane that doesn't have Bjergsen in it, or TSM gets rolled over. Meanwhile, you have some really, really, really scary top laners, like Acorn and Soaz, who's actually quite good this year, and Someday. Who's like the Korean top laner right now. And those are the guys to really watch for, and I think those are the guys that have the most sort of ability to carry the group.
Yeah, there's just a lot of good communication in the top three of these, or in these three teams, and then TSM has been struggling a little bit with communication, but they could have fixed that in the bootcamp. Obviously, we don't have any insight, because if they fix that, I do think they have the individual talent. I think Centauran is underrated when it comes to mechanics and actual gameplay, but it just doesn't seem to be any confidence. Him and Lustboy, neither of them is really stepping up in the communication department and leading the charge when it comes to roaming together, controlling the map, and I think that will be one of the biggest weaknesses for TSM. But I think in raw talent, they still have what it takes to at least challenge these teams.
I'm very interested to see how Origin steps up as well. You know, I still feel that LGD and KT Rolster are the sort of the stronger teams of the four, but Origin's the one that I think has the ability to surprise, because they have consistently impressed in every stage of the tournament. They went from Challenger to LCS, went undefeated practically. In LCS, they showed up, they took Fnatic to all the way to 5 games. And I mean, so has outclassed Huni multiple times in that series, which is something that nobody's been able to do in Europe all year long. And this is a guy who I personally felt was like an old dog learning new tricks. I wasn't sure how Soaz was going to do. The weak link for Origin, in my opinion, is going to be Pekka in that mid lane. And I think their ability to surprise and make it to playoffs will hinge on how much better Pekka can get from the end of LCS to now Worlds.
And one last thing I want to talk about real quick is LGD's AD carry Imp, I think, is by far the best AD carry in the world, easily the best AD carry at this tournament. And even though we keep seeing like AD carries are sort of falling off and they're less valuable and top lane carries are big and Azir was crazy for a while, Imp is a player that can hard carry a game and can put his team on his back. So I want to see how that bot lane goes for LGD and what they can have Imp do, because he's a very exciting player to watch.
Oh, we're going to have to see Group D, our final one. Definitely a lot of back and forth between TSM and Origin. We'll have to see how they fare with the other strengths of the group.
That's how I pick him. That's how I pick him.
That's how I pick him.
That's how I pick him. That's how I pick him.
That's how I pick him.
All right, so we've heard the experts talk about the teams, and now it's time to lay it on the line and pick them. This is where we pick the 2 teams that will make it out of each group stage. Here's who I picked. Coming out of Group A, I believe it is going to be CLG and the Coup Tigers. In Group B, I have Fnatic over IG. Looking at Group C, I have SKT over EDG, something we've talked about a little bit in the group. There'll be some back and forth. And LGD over KT for Group D. Now I'm going to pass it down the line. Crepo, what are you looking at for the groups, buddy?
I completely agree with you here. Again, in Group A, I have the faith CLG over Coup Tigers. Group B, I have to rep Europe. You know, Fnatic's going to take it all. IG a close second, of course. SKT is going to trump EDG this time, and they're going to go all the way to the final, but we'll see about that later. And then LGD, obviously they're going to trump KT. Imp ain't easy.
All right, you go next.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to be similar, but with a slightly different flavor. I think CLG will also beat Coup Tigers in Group A. Repping European pride here in Paris, Fnatic will be over IG, and I think convincingly. Now, I want EDG to beat SKT. I just think they'll play second in Group, unfortunately. And then finally in Group D, I think Origin are going to surprise, and I think it'll be LGD first and Origin second.
All right, so I like that you got some smart
finals?
things going on. Yeah, so as you guys said, Group A, Group B the same, CLG Q, Fnatic over Invictus. Next up, I do think Edward Gaming will win this one because I think there is a reason to get first place and they are the stronger team, so EDG over SKT. And finally, I agree with you. Yes, LG is going to win this. They probably win the entire tournament, but number 2 team, Origin, will beat up on KT Rollster.
Oh. So remember, you can pick them along with us, and there are some nifty prizes involved. Just head over to pick'em.lolesports.com to choose your teams and get all the info. And to help you show support for your picks, you can also sport new team icons. All of the World Championship team icons are available in the store, and you can show it off by hitting Control-6 in-game to show off your favorite team's colors. All icons are available right now, and a portion of each sale goes directly to the teams. So all of your choices will lock in just before the start of the first game on Thursday. So let's check out the schedule for the first part of the group stage. Things will kick off with the opening ceremonies tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central European Summer Time, which is 7 a.m. Pacific. And right after that, Fnatic and Invictus Gaming will hit the Rift in the first game of the 2015 World Championship. The games will continue on through Sunday for the first group stage, and the second group stage will start next week. And, of course, Primetime League will be with you throughout Worlds to kick off each stage. You can catch us again next week before the second part of the group stage on Wednesday, October 7th at 9 p.m. Central European Summer Time and 12 p.m. Pacific. We'll head back on October 30th for the finals. And that's about going to do it for our first Worlds edition of Primetime League. There will be a lot happening at Worlds, so remember that when the games spin up, send us your favorite incredible moments from the teams. Just tweet them to us at LOL Esports. Use the hashtag #ThePenta. You know the drill. We'll compile the best of the best. Now, as everyone prepares for the 2015 World Championship to begin tomorrow, let's check out the 5 best plays from the teams who will be competing. Or as the French would call it, Le Penta!
Grabbing the number 5 spot is CLG's bot lane with the Ballista play.
Keep missing. Oh, the flash hook! They got him! Xiao goes down. That was beautiful.
The Ballista play pulled off perfectly right there.
Charging in at number 4, Fnatic's Reckless gets an explosive pentakill.
There goes Yellowstar, another taunt. Hooney's looking for Miffy. Wild Growth will slow them down. Glitzerlance connects as well. And Reckless plus, that's a kill to Reckless rather. That's a double. He's looking for more. That's a triple. He's looking for 4. That's the quadra. He will get it. The reset forward, looking for a pentakill. We're in Sweden. The Swedish AD carry gets a pentakill.
Reckless is on fire today.
SKT's Faker outplays KT's Nagne as he dashed into our number 3 spot.
Level 6, they get the flash from Nagne. Faker comes in. He's got the ult. He's got the kill.
Dodged that petrifying gaze so beautifully, I almost couldn't see it.
Drifting in at number 2, LGD's Godfrey sweeps his way through a 1v2.
Yasuo gets the knock, the wind rolls down, gets the kill, drinks out the tie, gets his flow back, and kills the tie. Somehow gets the double.
Unbelievable. He gets that second ultimate, uses the sleeper, denies vision, knocks him up, gets the auto attack into crit, dashes through the wind wall as he places it down a second time, and he has the shield, gets the knock up again. Unbelievable.
And at number 1, Depth puts EDG on the path to the World Championship with a series-ending pentakill to secure the LPL Spring title.
He's so close, and Akon forced the pot lane. Clearlove going back in. Akon around the side, but Death finally makes it in. Godby getting tanked up as well. Clearlove actually dies as Pawn goes back in, and Mako's not here, and Death now peeled away, but Korra does so much work in the back line, but it might not be enough here. Pawn needs to find a kill to win, but he sets us out. Imp gets the kill. That's 2 kills. Death goes back in, flashes aggressive. Pawn needs to kite away. Death, what the hell? Gets a triple kill, gets the quadra, gets the pentakill. What on earth is going on? Death, what the hell? Gets a triple kill, gets the quadra, gets the pentakill. What on earth is going on?
This is the year of SKT.